Hi, my name is Stefan Frunze, and today I'd like to help you get started in Angular. To get started, let's take a look at the documentation. Clicking on the Getting Started link and going to Setup, we'll see some of the first commands that we should run whenever we're getting started with Angular. The first one globally installs the Angular CLI. I'd highly recommend doing this because I think it's the best way to work with Angular. It gives you access to some commands like ngnew, nggenerate that are going to really help you speed up your development process by offering you some templates to begin building upon, as opposed to having to build everything from scratch. So let's get into this. Since I've already had this installation happen, so I have Angular CLI, I can go to my command prompt and I can just write ngnew, and then I can give our project a name. So in our case, I think our project name should be Learning Application because that's the purpose for it. When I enter this command, it's going to prompt me to add the Angular router. For now, I'm going to say no, but we'll add this later. And it's going to ask me what kind of style sheets I'd like to use, and I just want to use default CSS. And then it's going to scaffold an entire Angular application for us alongside an initialized Git. It's going to download the NPM packages we need as dependencies, and it's also going to give us Karma tests if that's something you choose to use. So it actually scaffolds a great deal of stuff for us to be able to get started right away. It's also going to give us some scripts in the package JSON that we can run, and it's also going to give us a default component that I'll show you in just a second. It's basically just more Angular documentation. It's really good if you want to read through it, but as a demonstration tool, I think I'm going to delete all of the default stuff, and we're going to put up our own components. So as it's generating, I'm going to go over why you might be interested in Angular and why this might be worth your time. So what is Angular? Angular is a TypeScript-based front-end framework that's client-side rendered. This means that there's the option to make your application type-safe through the built-in TypeScript syntax. It also means that upon events like clicking a button, we can control the amount of the page that refreshes. We break up state into individual components so we can have control over what is being re-rendered at any given time. This lends itself to a very smooth end-user experience, and it's the reason that people used client-side rendered frameworks and libraries like Angular, React, and Vue. Angular also has a list of tools we can leverage that it is often paired with, such as this router, HTTP client, and Angular material. This is something that the more robust framework has over the libraries like React and Vue. It has built-in conventions that it's best to follow because most people do. So finding examples is pretty easy. Okay, now that it's all done scaffolding our application, let's get into it and see what it initially serves us. So we can cd into our new directory, into our new application learning app. And afterwards we can just say code dot, which is Visual Studio's way of opening up documents. It's basically just saying whatever's in this directory, open it up in Visual Studio Code. Okay. So this is what we get whenever we start. There is, as I mentioned before, these scripts that are initially given to us. And start is going to serve our application. What we can do now is we can actually do the npm run start command, and it's going to serve us whatever already exists in these directories. And you'll see that there's a default application component that is going to be served under source. And it's going to give us this big HTML with a bunch of documentation from Angular. It's really hard to make sense of this, which is why I'm going to delete it and replace it for our purposes. But I'm just going to show you what it looks like by default. This is what you get out of the box. As you can see, this is our learning application and it's running now. And the default view is a bunch of these links to documentation and the probably most useful CLI command, the nggenerate command, which is how we're going to create components and services. It's pretty useful to go through this, but for our purposes, like I said, it's not really good because how are we going to make sense of all of this HTML right off the bat and all the styling and everything? it's probably best if we just take it and completely axe it. In fact, we'll even save it. Now our application is just a blank page. What we can do is, for a point of reference, we can just put an H1 here, and we can say that this is the app component. So this is the component that the application comes default with. And going back to our website, you can see that's reflected over here. So every component comes with 4 distinct parts. It comes with the style sheet, it comes with the HTML template, it comes with the karma test, and it also comes with this .ts file where there's all the logic that is necessary for the component to handle events and things of that nature. Alongside this, we also have this app module ts file under source, which is pretty important because over here we have a declarations array that allows the application to know what components we actually have right now. Whenever we generate a component from the CLI, it's automatically going to be added to this array. If you create components manually, you'll have to also manually add the components to this declarations array. Over here we also have imports, which is where we're going to add the modules that we want to make use of, such as the HTTP client when we do data fetching, and the router whenever we're going to add routing to the application. After it's imported here in app modules, it's going to be able to be imported in components and in services wherever we can actually make use of it. One of the other things that should be noted is that there is a global styles file as well. So this is the style sheet for styles that would go on everything in the project all at the same time. And there's also the index.html file here that actually has the default component inside of it. This is the entry point for HTML, so to speak, and everything will be embedded within this index.html. That's the convention, and that's the way that I'm going to keep it for this project. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, in the next video, we'll actually create our first component, and we'll get started with some stuff like string interpolation and input-output to help you get a hold of what the Angular framework really offers as a baseline for creating components and managing state. I hope you're looking forward to that, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.